Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, I welcome our Chairman, Vice Chairman, Director, Principal, Head of the departments, students, faculty members, and our beloved participants to this international webinar, Industry 4.0. I am Anju MI, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, New Prince Shri Bhavani College of Engineering and Technology, Chennai. Our college, New Prince Shri Bhavani College of Engineering and Technology, is a self-financing institution established in the year 2008. It is located at Sandoshpuram. It is in between Velachery and Tamdam. Our college is affiliated to Anna University, Chennai, and approved by AICTE, New Delhi. It is an ISO 9001-2015 certified institution and also accredited by NAC. We offer 6 undergraduate courses and 2 postgraduate courses: BE Civil Engineering, BE Computer Science Engineering, BE Electrical and Electronics Engineering, BE Electronics and Communication Engineering, BE Mechanical Engineering, BTech Information Technology, and in PG, ME Applied Electronics and MCA. We have very spacious classrooms, well-equipped laboratories, and a large playground. Our college believes in the principle discipline, determination, and devotion. 91% of our students got placement in companies like IBM, TCS, CTS, Wipro, etc. Apart from curriculum, our college helps faculty members and students to enroll in MOOC courses such as NPTEL, ISRO's IIRS program, EDX, and Coursera. Before going to the session, it is my privilege to welcome and introduce our resource person, Dr. Shankar Durekannan. He has received his BE degree from University of Madras in Electronics and Communication Engineering, MTech from Anna University in Laser and Electro-Optical Engineering, PhD from University Putra Malaysia, Malaysia in Communication and Networks Engineering. He has 20 years of experience in research and in teaching. He has worked along with VAT, Garionas University, and KIST Randa. He is a counselor, chartered counselor in UK, and currently he is working as senior lecturer and research coordinator in School of Engineering, Asia Pacific University, Malaysia. Very less people get opportunity to be part of TED and TEDx program to share their ideas, views. Our resource person got it in the year 2018 and he shared his ideas wonderfully there. Today, it's our day. We are going to hear from you, sir. On behalf of all who gathered here, I welcome and thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation to be with us and to share your ideas in this international webinar, 5G, the Propeller of SDG 2013. Kindly take over the session, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Anju. Thank you for the introduction. And
thank you, sir.
Thank you, head of the schools and the leaders of the engineering college for accepting this webinar to share my ideas on 5G. Without further delay, I'll go for my presentation. Today's talk will be on 5G as the propeller of Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Okay. We all live in a very crucial situation of time where our life is challenged, the way we deal with every moment of life has been completely revamped or completely changed. But all these challenges have put us forward into a very era which we were planning a very far ahead of these challenges, even though it is an appears to be an ad hoc transition from a rudimentary lifestyle, a non-digital lifestyle, into a digital world, what is called as digital transformation. Even though it is so, but for me, for the engineering society, it is not a shocking thing, because we were planning this rather happening eventually. It has happened in an ad hoc fashion because of the COVID-19, but still it's good that we have kick-started with our digital transformation era. Okay, right. My topic today will be a 3-point sermon, a informal sermon, a 3-point informal sermon, which will be talking about SDG 2030 and are we progressing to the promise that the sustainable development or the whole nations, United Nations, have promised to attain in 2013, and how 5G is going to propel the attainment of SDG Sustainable Development Goals that has been planned in 2015, okay, alongside with 5G. The planning of 5G started in 2014 and the Sustainable Development Goal rolled out in 2015. So we can see that 5G started, and 5G is the initiator and the propelling force for SDG 2013. And finally, I'll be concluding with 5G as the catalyst for human capital and improvement of human capital index, which is one good measure of the nature, any nation's prosperity, and one good measure of the happiness index of the nation. Right. Somebody has raised his hands. Probably I can answer your questions later. Okay. If it is not a question. Right. To start with, sustainable development. This is a very common definition people give for sustainable development. Sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So we are more bothered of the future. Sustainability is more of botheration of the future, at the same time expanding our development to meet the needs of the present. Okay, so any initiative, sustainability is basically an initiative or action, and initiative and action to preserve the resources, especially the 4 pillars of sustainable development: social, human, economic, and environmental sustainability. Okay, to strike a balance, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs had a division, formed a division called Division of Sustainable Development Goal, which came out with 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, basically the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are blueprints to achieve more sustainable future for all without leaving any individual of this world. By 2030, we believe that the world population will go up to 8.5 billion. So not leaving 1% out of 8.5 billion. So sustainable development goal is attaining zero in lot of critical issues like poverty, no poverty, or eradicating poverty. There are several forms of poverty, in fact, to say. Okay. Situational poverty, absolute poverty, and generational poverty, rural poverty, urban poverty. One form of poverty measure is called as the extreme poverty. Extreme poverty is all about a person earning less than $1.25, which falls around 100 rupees, less than 100 rupees, is considered to be a person living in extreme poverty. Okay, now you will understand what is that 100 days work guarantee plan that the government of India have rolled out, and the wages of 100 rupees per day is to meet this or to eradicate this extreme poverty. Okay. So zero hunger to come out with a plan, or no hunger, and good health and well-being. When I say good health and well-being, the more important issue is maternity mortality and child mortality, and in fact lifespan of the people, or to ensure that people live at least above 60, the age of 60. Quality education, to provide a quality education to every child. Clean water and sanitation. I remember one of the researcher of 5G have told that people will have 4 connected devices by 2030, but they may not have clean water to drink. So this will be the situation that was predicted by one of the 5G developers. And affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, coming out with an industry innovation and infrastructure, adopting technology into industries, what they call it as industry 4.0, okay, making industry more autonomous, from an automated industry to an autonomous industries, reduce inequalities in any form, including gender inequalities and racial discriminations and everything, sustainable cities, infrastructures, responsible consumption and production to reduce wastage, climate actions, we all talk about global warming, having a healthy life below water and on the land, peace, justice, and strong institution for every individual, 8.5 billion individual, and partnership in sustainable development goals. So these are the 17 sustainable development goals that has to be attained. And are we progressing? Each and every sustainable development goals has its own targets and indicators to measure. There are 169 targets associated with this 17 sustainable development goals, and each and every target has an indicators to measure the attainment of the targets, and by which the attainment of the goal by 2013 can be measured. Each country, out of 195 countries, 193 countries are there in the sustainable development goal, for attainment of sustainable development goals. So all the 193 countries will be reporting on every year progress. So we are progressing, but unfortunately from 2018 and 2019, the progress, somewhere it is staked or somewhere it has slowed down. Okay. For example, when I talk about poverty, the plan of having extreme poverty to reduce to 3%, okay, to reduce to 3% of the total population of 2030, which is 8.5 billion. So when I look into 3% of it, it comes around to 250 million approximately. Okay, that's the goal. But when we look into the progress that has been made until 2019, I'm excluding this COVID issue, until 2019, the progress is slow. That the projection says that we may not reach the goal of reducing the extreme poverty to 3%. Rather, we will be ending up with the reduction up to 6%. 6% is almost like half a billion when I look into 8.5 billion people. Okay, so we'll be going into 6%. Half a million will be there, or 500 plus million will be there. So it will be almost like half a billion, which is still and very double the times of what has been set as a goal. Okay, so we need a propeller, and obviously 5G is the propeller of it, right? Digital transformation is what the whole world is embracing to attain these sustainable development goals. Okay, so people, every sector of economy, starting from the primary to the tertiary sectors, okay, are moving into a digitalized uh, or moving into a digital transformation, or digitalized businesses, digitalized manufacturing. They are moving into, or they are embracing, or what we call it as, they are integrating digital technologies into their operations, whether it is manufacturing or business or services. Into their operations, they are embracing or they are integrating digital technologies. Everything is going digital now, right? So people believe, or the stakeholders of the society believe, every individuals of the society who are embracing this digital transformation believe that this will propel the sustainable develop to attainment, towards the attainment of sustainable development goals. Okay, all this digital transformation, industry 4.0, whatever technologies people talk about, whatever advancement they have talked about, needs, or the impact of this cannot be felt without 5G. If you want to realize the full potential of digital transformation, 5G, the implementation of 5G is required. 5G is the backbone for the realization of complete potential of digital transformation. Right. Having said about 5G, is the propelling force for digital transformation towards the attainment of sustainable development goal, we need to know what is 5G. Okay, I usually say this: 5G is the end of all Gs, starting from 1G to 4G. 5G takes up a completely revolutionary architecture compared to the previous generations of network. Quickly to say, the first generation is all about sending analog voices, and second generation people are happy about digitizing it. The third generation wanted to send data, packet data, and the fourth generation wants to stream the data. They want to go on a stream, and fifth generation is they came out with new use cases. So all the fourth generation, until the fourth generation, it was specifically built for communication between human. Whereas the fifth generation, they came out with a lot of new use cases, application services and use cases that a very rigid network generation was not good enough. So people came out with a service-based or a business-driven network architecture, and that is 5G. Okay, 5G is service-based network architecture, and it is the most flexible architecture because 90% of the network functionalities are going to be virtual and software defined. So only 10% will be on hardware. Usually when we electronics and communication people, we look at telecommunication engineering, we think it is all about hardwares. It's no more like that. Only 10% will be hardware, from the antennas to your A to D converters will be a hardware, and after your A to D or D to A converters, it will be completely software-based platform. Right? Okay. So this is what 5G is going to offer for the society. Because when we talk about services and application and use cases, the requirement of the services and application of use cases of the current society is completely different from the previous generation. For example, a use case of autonomous vehicle, a self-driven vehicle. Okay, Industry 4.0 is all about autonomous rather than automatic or automated. So autonomous is taking decision on its own, doing things on its own, making conclusions on its own, optimizing the process on its own. So with less human interactions in the process. So for example, when I talk about a use case of autonomous vehicles, the vehicle has to communicate with a lot of entities around it, what we call it as vehicle to everything. So, and this communication has to be completely a real-time communication. The latency requirement is less than 1 millisecond. So 5G offers a latency which is required by autonomous vehicles. When we talk about VR, AR applications, and when we talk about online video streaming, high definition and ultra high definition video streaming, online video games or video interactions, and huge data rate is required. So there is a big shift from 1 Gbps, peak data rate of 1 Gbps to 20 Gbps in 5G. Okay, so you can see that a tremendous transition from in data rate is happening. And this data rate is at a high mobility. When we talk about mobile communication, it's all about mobility or giving the flexibility of movement for the user and how fast the user can move. It's the promised mobility is 500 kilometers per hour, and the traffic capacity is 10 Mbps per meter square. So that's the area traffic capacity. And we are talking about rather connecting people, as like Nokia says, we are talking about connecting things. More finally to say, we are talking about connecting everything, not excluding anything which my eye sees, right? So it means that there will be huge number of connected devices. I usually say this, my pen can save me when it is running out of refills. My water bottle can save me when the water is finishing. So it's about anything can be connected to network, okay, or anything can interact with any other thing. Okay, it is something like X to X. The X can be anything. Okay, so the density of connection will be 1 million connections, 1 million devices per kilometer square, right? So it is expected that there will be 50 billion devices by 2035. Okay, so 50 billion devices in the whole world. You know as you know what is the radius of the Earth, so you can calculate the surface area of the Earth. So 50 billion devices, you can see what is the density that is required. 5G offers the density that is required for connecting everything that exists in the world. Okay, and it has got a high spectral efficiency and energy efficiency. So 5G is a promising green communication, right? So when we look into the use cases, services, and application of 5G, each and every application, each and every services, and each and every use cases demands a different requirements or a different service from the network. So it cannot be one fixed network that can be offered for, or that can be catering the needs of multiple number of use cases. Okay, the autonomous vehicle, when I compare an autonomous vehicle to an smart home, the smart home will have multiple number of devices connected, but not necessarily an high-speed connectivity is required, whereas a massive connectivity of the devices is required. But when I look into autonomous driving vehicle, I should have a very highly reliable connection, and as well as a connection which can execute or which can communicate at a very high speed. So there is a requirement of ultra reliable low latency communication by the autonomous vehicle. Whereas when I look into a smart home application, there is a requirement of a massive number of device connectivity. So to cater the service requirement by every use cases, you have three architectures of 5G, or I can say that 5G service driven architectures. One architecture is enhanced mobile broadband architecture or 5G services, and massive machine type communication, and ultra reliable low latency communication. So these are the three significant, and there is an interrelations. So means that 5G is a network which is more flexible, more custom made according to the service requirement of the use cases. That's why we call it as a service based network architecture. It can still work as a standalone and a non-standalone architecture, and eventually we will be moving into a standalone 5G architecture. Okay, as I said to you all, uh, it's not because of COVID-19 that we have moved into a very digital. We had all this digital transformation. Suddenly, our classes going from a rudimentary blackboard teaching learning process to a very open-ended. Because I know last year teachers were saying, "Do not bring mobiles to your classrooms." Now, teachers ask students to log into a mobile phone. They started exploring the potentials of mobile communication in delivering the education that is required to equip the generations. Okay, but this is planned far ahead. Not now. It is planned very far ahead. This is the timeline of deployment that was planned for 5G. So the deployment will be starting with an highly dense urban area, and slowly it will be moving into a rural deployment. And you can see that it is a strategic movement from a user experience for an enhanced mobile broadband to a rural farmer who lacks manual labors, or today's agriculture lacks skilled labors for agriculture process. Okay, so a rural farmer can make use of a network to optimize his complete uh, process in agriculture, starting from seeding until to the point of harvesting and taking it to the market. Okay, so it gives an, what do you call it, it empowers a rural farmer, not necessarily an urban employees or an urban business class users. This is the greatness of 5G. 5G includes everybody or empowers everybody. Okay, so this is the ecosystem of 5G. We talk about spectrum. The spectrum extends from 700 megahertz and it goes all the way to 100 gigahertz. So we have a huge range of spectrum, again, to meet the demands of the use cases. And the infrastructure is highly flexible, and the infrastructure is good enough to bring down the cost of investment. So the return of investment will be very fast, not like 4G and 3G. Okay. The infrastructure will be more of a shared infrastructure. Therefore, the cost of investment will be very less. The cost of deployment will be very less. And devices, there are umpty number of 5G devices already been rolled out. As I earlier said, there will be 50 billion connected devices, and almost 25% of the devices by 2030 will be, by 2025 will be 5G devices. And it offers a wide variety of service such that the impact is felt in every sector of economy. Either it's a manufacturing sector or a primary sector, agriculture and mining, or whether it is a manufacturing sector or a secondary sector, or either it is a tertiary sector or a service sector, the impact is felt everywhere. There are number of use cases. In the other way to say, you define the use cases, 5G as a solution for your use case. Right? Okay. As I talked about 5G, I'm not going detail about the 5G technologies. Mine is all about how 5G is going to propel the sustainable development goal. Okay. Sustainable development goal is all about improving life of every individual who exist in this world. It's not only about every individual who exists in the world, it is also to preserve the world for the future. Okay? Right? Or to make the world a better place for living for the future generations. 5G, this is a survey by IHS Market. They say 5G alone by 2035, okay, can create an economic value of $13.2 trillion. This is just from 5G network alone. I'm not talking about um, the revenue that can be generated by the other industries by deployment of 5G. This is the impact of 5G on every industry. As I said, either is it a manufacturing industry or a service industry. 5G serves every sector of or every section of our life. And when we talk about jobs, 5G alone can create 22.3 million jobs by 2035. So we are afraid of job securities as a telecommunication engineers. We have a job secure when 5G is rolled out. Right. I'm going to talk about a few use cases of 5G and map these use cases to sustainable development goals. In fact, this mapping of use cases and to sustainable development goal is done by the World Economic Forum. I'm just going to highlight how these use cases are going to support sustainable development goals. So when we talk about use cases, there are 40 plus use cases that has been analyzed or has been studied by the World Economic Forum. Few of them are smart factory floor, which means the whole factory lineup will have autonomous employees. When I say factory floor, it talks about the employees. So the system is now going to be autonomous. The complete production line or manufacturing line will be autonomous, starting from picking up the raw material until the delivery of the finished goods. So that's what people talk about, or people call it as Industry 4.0. When we talk about the next use cases, human to robot collaborations. Rather having Sophia as simply a talking chatbot, Sophia will be helping in the industrial section as well. Okay. In production, in decision making. In fact, it's not about just putting up a screw or assembling. It's about, when I say autonomous, it's about robots which are intelligent, learn by themselves, and there is an learning part happening with the robots. They learn by themselves. They have a big data, they have artificial intelligence, and they have reinforcement learning. All these technologies put together make the robots or make the industrial factory line or factory floor more autonomous. They can make decisions on their own, optimize the process, and come out with better solutions every time. Okay, and predictive maintenance is one more use cases. Predictive maintenance is just learning the day-to-day activity of the machines rather having a random maintenance. The maintenance is predicted. So the life of the machines, the life of the infrastructure is preserved. The quality of the infrastructure is preserved. Digital twins. I may have a digital twin for myself later who is better in coming out with solutions than myself. The learning of my digital twin will be more faster. It will learn from myself and from my uh, coexisting things. I'm not talking about coexisting people. I'm talking about everything, coexisting things. And the digital twin of mine will be more intelligent, more good in decision making. In fact, it can advise me later. Okay. Digital performance management, especially students who are going for interviews, your HRs are going to be looking at your digital, they will be having a digital performance management systems. Okay, so I'm just giving you one use case. Okay, augmented reality can tell you stories of what you are looking at. Okay, so it will have visuals, graphics, audios integrated, and it can tell you stories or it can give you information of everything what you're looking at. Obviously, we know what is virtual reality, okay? And we have mixed reality, we have extended reality, okay? The technology is also growing. Each and every enabling technology for these use cases are growing individually to the next levels, are advancing as well. And all these technologies are interdependent. And these interdependent technologies are fueling the growth of each other. Right? Very simply to say, people are happy about voice transmission, right? And once what they got voice transmitted, they wanted it to be digitized. So again, digital transmission. They are not happy about voice alone. Now they wanted to see faces. So they started transmitting pictures and then videos, then live videos. Then they are not happy about transmitting live videos. Then they wanted very high definition videos to be transmitted and interactive real-time video transmissions, 360 video transmissions. So if you look at it, the use cases are fueling the technology development, and along with the technology development, the use cases also getting advanced. So that's how each and every technology is interdependent and interrelated, and they uh, ensure every technology grows along with the other technologies. Okay, these are some more use cases. Soon we'll have an cellular vehicle to everything. X stands for anything. Vehicle to any communication. It's more about autonomous vehicles. Airborne taxis. Later in few years, we may see that Uber and Ola will be having an autonomous self-driven airborne taxis. Internet of medical skills and remote surgeries. Okay, you can see doctors performing surgery somewhere in place X, and the robots are connected to the doctors, and the robots perform the surgery of the patients. Right. So doctors from anywhere around the world can treat patients anywhere around the world. But the requirement is the latency should be very less and the reliability of the connectivity should be very less. Half the way, if the connection goes off, then you know what the pitiful status is. Okay, so 5G is the promising technology which will enable all these use cases. Drone enabled medical services and other services. We all now currently witnessed this. Okay, a swarm of locusts that was invading completely on North India was killed by drones that has been developed by students of Anna University, right? So this is the use case. And now, rather people traveling, you have to make the drones autonomous, and you have to make the drones more of intelligence, with intelligence. And they can fly, they can take decisions on their own, they can be more, what do you call, more efficient in targeting the goal, or in targeting the to hit the targets. Okay, so these are the improvements that is required. So all that this requires a communication with everything that exists around the drone. Again, ultra reliable, low latency communication, and a massive machine type communication comes into existence. Okay, smart grid is another use case, right, in energy engineering. Okay, so these are the few use cases which I'm talking about. There are humpty number of use cases to discuss. Okay, so I'm just mapping these use cases. This mapping is done by World Economic Forum. Okay, the use cases of manufacturing industries is directly mapped, or they enable the attainment of, or they fuel the attainment, or they propel the attainment of SDG 2030. Smart factory floor, human robots, as we discussed, predictive maintenance, digital twins, augmented reality, virtual reality, digital performance management of any process or any person or any business. okay, will lead to the attainment of all these 5 goals. Goal number 7, affordable and clean energy, decent work, industry innovation and infrastructure, responsible construction, and the 13th goal as well. Okay. Again, mobility. When I talk about mobility, the one thing always comes to my mind is autonomous vehicles, airborne taxis, okay, remote vehicle health monitoring, which is requirement of these times. Okay, so all this airborne taxis can carry medical aid to a place where people cannot reach. So in that way, it helps good health and well-being. Okay. Industry and innovation, that's the other. And sustainable cities and communities, or other sustainable goals, which are uh, these use cases enables the attainment of these sustainable goals. And healthcare is the more important area or more significant area. We'll talk about healthcare later. Again, these are the more significant areas. Remote patient monitoring, especially places like India and Africa regions, where people, more than 50% of the people still live in rural areas, where proper healthcare is not easily available for them. This remote patient monitoring with wearable devices. Okay, if you have 5G network there, and if you have wearable devices there, if you have even few even you can go for a skill development of the rural health workers. Okay, a skill development program for rural health workers. So the rural health workers, they're stationed at the rural area where an high facilities cannot be reached due to return of investment. Again, all the investment features of the hospitals. So remote patient monitoring can take care of a good health and well-being. Okay, I don't need to talk about quality education. As I said, in healthcare, the health workers in rural area can still be educated by the specialist who can sitting anywhere around the world. Okay, I have another example that I can show you later. Okay, gender equality, decent work, again, industry and innovation. This is always addressed with the 5G. When you have 5G, there is a very good infrastructure developed. Our 5G is the foundation for an innovative infrastructure, what we call it as digital transformation, right? Financial services, mobile banking. We don't go to banks anymore. Okay, your mobile phone is enough. Okay, you can do a peer-to-peer lending and peer-to-peer banking. Mobile as your digital wallets, and slowly mobile will be getting rid of our mobile phones, and we'll be having wearable digital wallets. Okay, so you go cashless. So that's all. This needs a very good communication infrastructure, and 5G is the answer for it. Okay, in the retail place, again, retail marketing, and in energy, electrical vehicles, self-driven or autonomous electrical vehicles, drone monitoring capabilities. Obviously, drones are going to be autonomous, and the drones has to be monitored, guided. Okay. Smart energy management of your home, starting from your home until the grid. Okay. All your generation, transmission, and distribution can be monitored using a IoT of sensor networks. Okay. So you have this energy use cases addressing, again, this 4 sustainable development goals. Again, all these use cases addresses the sustainable development goals. Okay, so 5G is the propeller towards the attainment of sustainable development goals. right? I'm going to talk about a very, we talk about, usually when we say sustainable development, they talk about three pillars: social, economic, and environmental. Okay. I, I usually consider the fourth one as the, all these three pillars are towards an individual. So people, in fact, one single person is the most important of anything in this world, every single person, because sustainable development goals are framed to have a better future or sustainable future for everyone, not even forsaking one person in the world. So I talk about this human capital index. Human capital index is the good measure of how good is the life of the people. The more on the top, right, the higher the human capital index. The index usually ranges between 0 to 1 and more towards 1, right? It means that the potential or the percentage of potential of the people, of the person, or of a individual, okay, is a measure of percentage of the potential that has been developed or that has been utilized, okay, by the society or by the betterment of the society, right? So usually when I say human capital index is all about a baby born today. Human capital is all about a baby born today, what it will have at the age of 18. So it's about health, it's about education, it's about its resilience. Okay, I put it in these three words. A baby is born. Will the baby survive? Good health and well-being of the baby. Will the child live long enough? In 2017, a report by United Nations says that there are 5.4 million infant death, or when I say infants, it's child under 5 years. Okay, in 1 year there is around 5.4 million people. This is a survey in 2017, and half of them, almost like 2.5 million, is the baby or the infant death within 1 month of its birth. So human capital index is the measure of, the lower the capital index, it means the survival rate is less. The survival rate of the child is very less. We know where our country stands. Okay, and if the child is surviving, can it enroll into a school? The economic stability, a lot of issues in enrolling the child into a school, a lot of factors. And if enrolled, how long? And what is the quality of the education that has been afforded to the child? Can the child read? Can the child write? Can the child be good in math, science, and problem solving? These are the skills that are expected to develop in a child before she or he reaches 18. And if at all, will the child be joining school? Right? There is a huge number of school dropouts. The statistics are there. Okay, still we are improving, but we are not at the point where we are supposed to be after 5 years of framing the sustainable development goal and working towards sustainable development goal. And is the child growing in a healthy environment? Right, it's a more important question. Do we fear to send our child out to play, exclude COVID-19? If there is no COVID-19, still is the environment healthy for the child growth? I'm talking about every aspects of healthy environment. Do the child get an adequate food? Okay, malnutrition is the biggest problem. Not only in India, in developing nations. Almost when I look at the malnutrition, okay, like 1 out of 9 child is unnourished, and 1 out of 5 child is stunned. When I say stunned, it doesn't have an appropriate growth. Okay, there should be a growth according to the age. 1 out of 5 child is stunned. This is a global statistics. 1 out of 9 child is unnourished. It is because our agriculture productivity is less, especially countries like India and other developing nations. Mostly agriculture is a small scale and a family level farming. And now getting a skilled labor for agriculture is very difficult in these areas. Right? So food, healthcare, do the child gets an adequate food, healthcare, and family support? And if at all, if the child has grown, if at all, if the child has got everything, can it survive or can it live until 60? These are the measures, or these are the things that goes into the human capital index. It is the product of child survival, the product and the quality of education and the healthcare that is given to the child. So the higher the product, it means the productivity is there. Okay. If I say, if the HCI is 0.44, I'm not pointing out any nation. Of course, there is a nation which has 0.44 HCI, right? The productivity is 44%, right? So, which directly means that all these three things are not up to the mark, right? So, what has to be done? What has to be done to improve the child survival rate? What has to be done to give a quality learning? What has to be done to give an appropriate health care? Right? And the answer is there in our hands. I always say this, 5G is one tool that can propel human capital, or that can catalyze to enrich human capital. Quality education, when I say healthcare, now we have wearable devices. Okay, this can cut down 16. This is a statistics again. It says that 16% of the hospital cost can be cut down by wearable devices. The hospital functions can be distributed, rather at one place it can be distributed. And this is some statistics that has been given. More than 55,000 people watched a virtual reality of a cancer operation. This is the education that can be provided to develop skilled laborers in the healthcare industry. One operation can be watched by 55,000 people. Physically, it is not possible, right, in an operation theater. But through virtual and augmented reality and extended realities, okay, this is possible. So, healthcare can be improved, and patient monitoring system, right? You can have a 24 hours patient monitoring system, especially maternity monitoring and as well as child monitoring system, child health monitoring systems, and the aged people monitoring system, so that there is no child mortality, there is no maternity mortality, and there is no life threat for the aged people. Okay, right? So 5G is the one which can facilitate to or improves the healthcare requirement, or it can facilitate the healthcare requirement for improving human capital index. Okay, education, as I said, we didn't witness education 2.0, 3.0. I always say this. Okay, until last year we were there in education 1.0, including myself. Okay, I'm not excluding myself, I'm also a teacher. Okay, we prefer teaching on boards, and we usually say that sit quietly and listen, do not, and we usually punish people who bring mobile phones to schools and colleges. Now it's entirely different. Education has gone more on a learning based. So the students is expected to be a learner, okay, which is the objective of education, a self-learner, problem solver, okay, and he has a lot of resources. All you need to do is look into resources, frame the problem, frame the hypothesis, solve the problem, match the hypothesis, and then come out with the solutions, answers. So the education providers are just facilitators, right? So thanks to COVID-19, it has moved us drastically from education 1.0 to 4.0. Okay, and this can happen. So people from higher learning institutions like MIT from US can reach to any student who has the willingness to learn through a connected network, and all it requires is the network which is good enough to transfer the knowledge from a learned person to a learner, right? And a network which can connect a person who is seeking for skill developments to the skills that is available anywhere around the world. Right, 5G can facilitate education. It can develop an education to a level that you are equipped to meet the future requirements of the industry. Right. 5G can connect everything. You have a lot of connecting facilities, so it can connect everything. It can connect farms. Okay, so you don't need to be a physically present in your farms. You can still stay somewhere in an urban society. Okay, the biggest problem of farmers is he has to live, struggle hard in a rural society, in a rural area. He can still live in a urban area, enjoy the comforts of the urban area. In fact, all the rural areas will be urbanized after the advent of 5G. So the monitoring, even the process can be autonomous, and the monitoring or the spectator, the farmer can be a simple spectator of the process happening. And the community is well connected now. Okay. So this is what 5G integrates, removes the borders, physical borders, social borders. Digitalization is going from borders to borderless. Right. Having talked about all these things, resilience, how quick we are, or the capacity, we gain the capacity to come out of adverse effect. No other thing can be a good example other than COVID-19, right? Few months ago, everything was shut down. The only hope people have is the mobile networks, connected networks. So we are quick to jump into connected devices to restore or to bounce back from all our social, economical, and environmental setbacks. So 5G is for resilience without any doubt. Right? Okay, I conclude finally with this. You will prevail. I think most of you know this word. Okay, maybe today it might be looking like you are chained with your connected devices, and somebody might think that you are frustrated. Somebody might be frustrated. Don't worry, you will prevail. Everything is easy as you. It's possible by practice. I always say this. We are into new era of going into a borderless digital world, and we will prevail. Mobile networks has influenced to a very high level and empowered to a very high level. I just leave this, close this session with this simple, funny example. Okay, GP Muthu, who stays somewhere in South India, expresses his grievance of banning TikTok to the Prime Minister of the nation. Who knows? If the IT wing of the Prime Minister of the nation is very good, they would have taken the information there. GP Muthu is influenced by the network, and he is empowered, or he has given the, what do you call, the facility to talk to the Prime Minister directly. This is what a network can do for you. I conclude with this simple note. 5G is a promising technology of the future, and there is no future without communication connecting technology. Right. These are my references. I open the floor for the question.
Sir, some questions are there in the chat box. Can you go through it, sir?
Okay, just give me a second. Can someone read me some questions rather?
So one question is, jobs we can expect from 5G technology.
What is it? Sorry.
What kind of jobs we can expect from 5G technology?
Okay. If you are a communication engineer, there are a lot of job opportunities for communication engineer, especially. Okay, as I said, there are 10 enabling technologies known to me, 10 frontline enabling technologies such as software-defined network, network function virtualization, artificial intelligence, big data. Okay, all these are enabling technologies. You have to be a jack of all these trades and a master of one trade. Okay, if you are a communication engineer who is an hardcore communication engineer working in the first three layers, physical layer, data link layer, network layers, okay, start thinking about designing, how can I design a cellular network given a space. For example, you are in Chennai, you should equip yourself with the knowledge and skills that is required to design a complete. If you know an end-to-end design architecture and working functionalities of a network, there are a huge amount of opportunities. It all depends on the skill development. And now you should know software-defined networks. Okay? So that's one area where you can explore. Right. This one, honestly to say, it came to me, if you have watched a movie Kadalam Kadandu Pogum, in the interview she will say this, what will be the future? She says that software defined network. I'm giving the same answer, the future is software defined network for communication engineers.
Sir, hello sir, this is Akash from EC department.
Yeah, Akash.
Sir, you tell that poverty will be poverty இருக்காது 2035ல சொன்னீங்க. பட் இந்தியாவோட அன்எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ரேட் வந்து 10.5% சார். நவ் at present 2019ல சர்வே எடுக்கிறாங்க. யூத்தோட அன்எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ரேட் வந்து 10.8%. அண்ட் சைனாவோட அன்எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ரேட் வந்து 3.8% சார். ஆனா அதுதான் ஆக்சுவலி ஹையஸ்ட் பாப்புலேட்டட் கண்ட்ரி. ஆனா அங்க அன்எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ரேட் ரொம்ப கம்மி. இங்க வந்து அன்எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ரேட் அதிகமா இருக்கு. அண்ட் யாருமே இப்ப நான் வந்து இன்ஜினியரிங் படிச்சேன்னா நான் இன்ஜினியரிங் படிச்ச வேலைக்கு போறேன்னா இல்ல. அதுவும் இல்லாம நிறைய வில்லேஜஸ் இருக்கு சார். ஓவர் தமிழ்நாட்டுல மட்டும் 15,000 வில்லேஜஸ் மேல இருக்கு சார். அண்ட் நான் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் பண்ணது சென்னை பக்கத்துல இருக்க நெய்யம் வில்லேஜ் சார். அங்க வந்து 4G வரும்போது சொன்னாங்க எல்லா இடத்துலயும் நெட்வொர்க் கிடைக்கும்னு. ஆனா நான் நெய்யம் வில்லேஜ் போனேன், சென்னைக்கு ரொம்ப க்ளோஸா இருக்கிற வில்லேஜ். ஆனா அங்க வந்து எனக்கு நெட்வொர்க் கிடைக்கல சார். எப்படி சார் நீங்க சொல்றீங்க, அஷ்யூர் பண்றீங்க எல்லா இடத்துலயும் நெட் கிடைக்கும், நெட்வொர்க் கிடைக்கும்? அதே மாதிரி வந்து யூஎஸ்ல வந்து மொபைல் நெட்வொர்க் யூஸ் பண்றவங்க கம்மி, துபாயில மொபைல் நெட்வொர்க் யூஸ் பண்றவங்க கம்மி. இந்தியாவில தான் மொபைல் நெட்வொர்க் யூஸ் பண்றவங்க அதிகம். இந்தியாவில தான் அதிகமா டவர்ஸ் இருக்கு. பட் ஆனா ஒண்ணுமே எங்களுக்கு வந்து நெட்வொர்க் கிடைக்கல சார். அது எப்படி சார் 5G என்னால கிடைக்கும் அப்படின்னு சொல்றீங்க? எப்படி அஷ்யூர் பண்ண முடியும்?
Okay. This question, I don't know whether I will try to exclude all the political issues and I will talk about this question more engineering way. Okay. Geo is coming out with a fiber plan, fiber network, fiber to the home plan. Okay. And if you remember, if you listen to some news from Tamil Nadu, there was a scam about the laying of the fiber and whether it has been given. So I'm just excluding that, all those news values. What that is promising is there is a scheme that laying of fibers to every rural area is there. Okay, we already had, see, this fiber network is not new for us, honestly to say. In 1996 itself, Railtel had a very huge fiber network starting from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Okay, Railtel is the fiber network of railways, and they leased out this fibers to the other service providers. Unfortunately, the potential of fiber network was not explored so far. As he said, US or anywhere, any other nations, they mostly use fiber to home technology. Okay, and this fiber network will be the backbone network driving 5G. Okay, and the deployment of 5G will be eventually happening from urban to rural areas slowly. As I say, we have two architectures, non-standalone and standalone architecture. The 4G infrastructure that has been deployed will be eventually moved to a very remote rural areas. Okay, TRI is working on everything. If you have a complaints for, when I say TRI is all about Telephone Regulatory Authority of India. Okay, if you have any network coverage issue, all you need to make is, you just need to make the complaint to your network service provider. And it is the network service provider who have to ensure, like whoever it may be, Airtel or Jio or anything, anybody, they have to ensure the quality of the service has been restored or provided according to what is promised in your area. Okay, this is the job of RF engineers working in that, and they give a report of this to TRI. Every call drop is penalized by TRI, and every service provider has to maintain the quality of network. Okay, so if there is an issue with the quality of network, we have to complain it. Okay, and it is mandated that the network service providers has to listen to your complaints and have to rectify or act to the complaints which you make, and they have to report everything to TRI. Okay, about poverty. Okay, if you remember, there is an Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Okay, honestly to say, it is an 100 days work scheme that has been given to the rural people. Okay, unfortunately, this 100 days work scheme is all about a very low level labor choice. Actually, the skill development that has to happen is not happening in India. Okay, we are educated, but do we acquire the skill that is required is always a question. Okay, there are jobs. Okay, we have to look into jobs which are going to be in the future. More than 30 to 60% of the jobs which we are doing will not be there in the future, right? For simple, for an example, I say, okay, we had BPOs. Okay, there were a lot of BPO jobs, but now BPOs are going to be more replaced. All the BPO operators or BPO employees, human employees, are going to be replaced by chatbots. So if I'm going to be looking for a job like that, obviously I'll not find a job. So I need to look into job opportunities, and I need to develop the skills that is required for the job opportunities. That's what, if you are a communication engineer, for example, you have made a decision in year one to be a communication engineer. Start preparing yourself, start looking at, now there are a lot of resources available. Okay, if you open up YouTube, you can listen to MIT lectures, not exclusively to your lecturers to learn your modules or to learn your lectures. Okay, so it's all about how you are preparing yourself for the future, right? That's why I say teaching learning process is not more about teaching, it's more about learning. I don't know whether I've answered your question, Mr. Akash. Right? And there are a lot of schemes to eradicate poverty. One scheme is that the 100 days work scheme. That's why I think extreme poverty, but the urban poverty is a different, there are different levels of poverty or different categories of poverty. Okay. So eradicating poverty in all forms is the goal. And to make a progress, it has to start with equipping every individual to meet its own demands. The strength of India is all about that, right? India is developing because of the individuals. It's not more about the government policies. Every individual wants to strive and grow. That contributes to the growth of nation. So if an individual is responsible and at his learning stage, and if the facilities is provided for them, then obviously the possibility of eradicating poverty is there. In one word to say, self-awakening. Any questions there?
Sir, a lot of questions are still there.
Okay.
As we are running short of time, I'll go to only one question and then we'll wind up, sir. So what are the measures to tackle the cybersecurity concerns pertaining to 5G? An European research group revealed in 2017-18 that 5G is premature with regards to the security architecture.
Okay. Cybersecurity is one big area of exploration. As I said, that's the area where you have another job opportunity, huge job opportunities. So cybersecurity is one area. If you look into security, a blockchain structure, okay, the highly secured structure is blockchain structure. So probably in your, if you're what you call computer science engineer or any blockchain techniques can be adopted for everything, not only for bitcoins. Okay, it's foolproof. Okay, probably you can explore adopting the blockchain technique into the network securities. Okay, ultimately it's all about packets, frames, and everything. Okay, and if the packets, frames, and everything is going to be secured like a blockchain model, then obviously there is no security issues, I believe. That's my belief. Any more questions?
Sir, we are running short of time, so we will conclude, sir.
Right. Okay. Thank you. You can still post your questions to my mails, and thank you once again for inviting. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, we are in the last part of our session. That is out of thanks. I consider it as a great privilege to say thank you to all who have witnessed it as a memorable and successful webinar. On behalf of our management, faculty members, students, and participants, I express our gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Shankar Duraikannan, and also thank you, sir, for illustrating the potential of 5G as a powerful tool to achieve the goals of SDG 2030. Last but not the least, I thank pillar of the webinar, our participants, for showing their interest in this webinar. Once again, thank you very much. Stay safe and take care.